Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. My name is Sami, I'm a human nutrition student and researcher at the university, and my job here is to consume a lot of content in the classes of the university, and then I synthesize everything for you here in these type of videos. Today we're going to continue the series of videos of the cooking methods, and we're going to focus on water cooking. I mean cooking with water. So let's begin. As a first type of water cooking method, we have blanching or bleaching. This is not really a full cooking method. It's an incomplete cooking of food in boiling water for a short period of time. And it's also used in combination with another cooking method. So we maybe do some bleaching and then something else. Moving on, we have poached. Poached is slow cook in a liquid just under its boiling temperature. It can be water, it can be milk, tends to be water, but it doesn't reach the boiling temperature. So water boils at 100 degrees Celsius at 1 atmosphere of pressure. Knowing that, we don't have to reach 100 degrees, so we can heat up the water up until 90 degrees, for example, and cook the food with it. Inside this category, I want to talk about poached fish, because poaching fish is the best way to cook fish. Let's first talk about fish. Well, fish comes from the sea and it has salt with it. And also the trimethylamine and the ammonia in the fish will give us a bad smell. Trimethylamine and ammonia come from trimethylamine oxide and urea respectively. Because fish come from the sea and they live underwater, which is cold, they're very sensitive to heat. They have fibers that are normally working at lower temperatures underwater, and they have low quantities of collagen, which is between the fibers. The collagen forms the gelatin at relatively low temperature. That is why poaching is the best way to cook fish, because we do not reach the boiling temperature of water, so we are not going to damage the food, which is very fragile. And as a tip, we are going to add some acid to counter the bad smell. This is why in restaurants they put some lemon on the fish. Moving on, we have boiled. Boiled is a complete cook in a liquid reaching its boiling temperature. So here we do the same thing as poaching, but we reach the boiling temperature of the water in this case. Here we have to differentiate two types of boiling. One is when we add the food with the water being cold, and the other one is when we add the food with the water already boiling. This will give us two different types of cooking, and we use them differently for different types of food. We used the addition with cold water for legumes, potatoes and soups, whereas we add the food with water already boiling, for example for vegetables and mainly pasta. When boiling, we have to make sure that we avoid evaporation. If we evaporate all the water, then there is not sufficient amount of it, and that will burn or not properly cook the food we're trying to cook. Then also the water quantity changes for each type of ingredients. It's not the same boiling some eggs than some pasta or some rice. They have different types of absorption of the water. And the cooking time changes as well. It's not the same cooking some pasta than cooking some legumes. And then we have steaming. Steaming is cooking with water vapor. We can do it with a high pressure or a normal pressure. Normal pressure is raise the rack with food on top. So we put the water, we put the rack and the food. High pressure is using a pressure pot. We have to leave it 1/3 of it empty, because if not it will explode because of the high pressure. We have to lower the temperature when the vapor escapes. Lower the heat. And after it's done, we have to let it cool down before actually open it. Okay, so now let's view what happens to the food when we cook in water. First, we start with the eggs. Eggs cooked in their shell We say that boiling is not optimal because it can be too damaging for the egg and the white can come out and the result will be an overcooked egg. The hot water will create an coagulation of the egg. In concrete, we find that at 62 degrees the white of the egg coagulates and at 71 degrees Celsius the yolk coagulates. So as you can see, we don't have to really reach the boiling point at 100 degrees to get the coagulation of the egg, which is what we are boiling the egg for. So by knowing this, we can also try to steam the egg. Even it's not very common to do it, but scientifically it's better from a culinary perspective. And then we talk about the green yolk. Why do we have the green yolk? Well, this is because of this reaction. We have carbonic acid that converts into CO2 and the CO2 escapes. This leads to a higher pH. Why? Because we are getting an acid into the CO2 and then the CO2 escapes. So we are losing acidity. Therefore, the pH increases. That alkalinity will make the amino acids to lose the sulfur. And the sulfur will bind to the iron, creating the ferrous sulfide, which is a green component. To differentiate between a fresh egg and an old egg, we know that the fresh egg has the sulfur with the CO2. The CO2 then will leave and the sulfur eventually will bind to another thing, to the iron for example. Whereas an old egg has the hydrogen sulfide, which will lead to a bad smell, the typical smell of rotten eggs. And then we have the vegetables. We can differentiate between the texture, the flavor, and the pigments. What happens to the texture? Tuberous texture, for example, we can find the harinose texture or waxy texture in potatoes. The vegetable's flavor comes from, for example, in cruciferous, because of high sulfur compounds. And overcooking the cruciferous will give us too much hydrogen sulfide and a bad taste. And then talking about pigments, you have to know that we have the chlorophyll within vegetables. And the chlorophyll has this thing in the center called magnesium. A proton displaces the magnesium from the chlorophyll. And this will get the vegetables to become brown. So the reason why the vegetables become brown is because the cellular wall on the plant cell is destroyed. Therefore, the soluble part of the chlorophyll can be attacked, and in that way, the protons in the solutions where the vegetables are put in, they can displace the magnesium from the chlorophyll, and replacing it will change the color of that vegetable. To avoid this, we can put bicarbonate, which is an alkaline medium, to keep them green. But we have a downside, which is that it removes vitamins, and we do not want that. Another thing is boiling water for short time. So we introduce the vegetables in boiling water for a short period of time. That will destroy browning enzymes, and we will keep the color of the vegetable, the green color. And then we have legumes. Legumes can be cooked by boiling. The best way to start the cooking method is to put them on high heat for 5 to 10 minutes without the lid. This will destroy the impurities and will not create the foam. Then some tips for cooking legumes properly is to put the salt at the end, so they do not peel themselves. Then water must be 3 times the amount of legumes we are going to put, the 3:1 ratio. And then soaking, but not in all legumes, because in lentils and peas is not needed. And then starting to count the cooking time when the water starts to boil. And finally, we talk about meat and fish. Well, water cooking for meat is not the best way to cook it for flavor and taste and aromas. And it is done for low quality meat with a lot of collagen and fat. On the other hand, we have the fish, and water cooking is the best way to cook fish, the poached in concrete. And this is because this method of cooking will not harm the myotomes and the myosepta. Myotomes are the muscle fibers, and the myosepta is the collagen between those fibers. Okay, so that's it for this video. I hope you understood how the water cooking methods work and how they can be useful for different types of food, especially fish. If you have any doubts, there is a comment section down below. Remember to subscribe, to like this video, share it with your friends, and download this diagram. It's on my website, and you will get to it by clicking on the first link in the description down below. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one, in which we're going to talk about oils cooking. Bye!